In the quaint town of Cedar Valley, Ohio, the autumn leaves swirled in the brisk air, and the sun struggled to pierce through the morning mist. Cedar Valley High stood proudly, its doors flung open, welcoming a new wave of students. Among them was Zariah Brooks, a 16-year-old girl who had just transferred from Detroit. With her curly black hair tied back and dressed in a simple hoodie and jeans, she blended into the crowd, but beneath her calm exterior lay a secret that could shake the very foundation of the school. Zariah was not just an ordinary student, she was the reigning junior MMA champion of Michigan. Years of rigorous training had honed her skills, making her a force to be reckoned with in the ring. But her mother, Dr. Linda Brooks, had insisted on a fresh start, urging Zariah to keep her abilities hidden. "Just be a normal student," she had pleaded. "Don't let anyone know what you can do." As Zariah stepped into the bustling cafeteria for lunch, she felt the weight of her mother's words pressing down on her. She chose a corner table, hoping to remain unnoticed. But the whispers and laughter around her were a constant reminder of her isolation. She longed for acceptance, but she knew that her past would always linger like a shadow. On her second day, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Zariah found herself face-to-face with Derek Mason, the self-proclaimed king of Cedar Valley High. With his broad shoulders and smug grin, he approached her table, flanked by his two sidekicks, Leo and Jake. "Hey, new girl," he sneered, slamming his palm on the table. "This is my territory. You better learn the rules." Zariah's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady. "I'm just here to study." Derek leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. "We don't take kindly to outsiders. $5 a day for protection, or life here will get real tough for you." Zariah clenched her fists under the table, her instincts screaming to fight back. But the image of her mother's worried face held her back. "I'll think about it," she replied, her voice calm despite the storm brewing inside her. The next day, Derek's harassment escalated. He and his friends made a spectacle of her, mocking her in front of the entire cafeteria. Zariah felt the heat of humiliation wash over her as soup spilled across her jeans, laughter echoing in her ears. But she remained silent, holding on to her promise to her mother. That night, Zariah lay in bed, wrestling with her emotions. The fighter within her was restless, urging her to stand up. She picked up her phone and called her old coach, Marcus Johnson. "Zariah, you have to defend yourself," he advised. "But remember, don't strike first. Show them you're not an easy target." The next morning, Zariah walked into school with a newfound determination. She would no longer be a victim. When Derek confronted her again, she stood her ground. "I won't pay you," she declared, her voice steadied as Derek's smirk faltered, and for the first time, Zariah saw fear flicker in his eyes. "This isn't over," he muttered, but she could sense the shift in power. Word spread quickly about Zariah's defiance, and soon, the entire school buzzed with anticipation. Derek challenged her to a fight after school in the parking lot, and students flocked to witness the showdown. Zariah felt the weight of their expectations, but she was ready as the crowd gathered. Zariah faced Derek, her heart pounding. He lunged at her, throwing wild punches, but she dodged effortlessly, her training kicking in. With a swift kick, she sent him sprawling to the ground, the crowd gasping in disbelief. "I told you I don't fight to prove myself," Zariah declared, standing tall. "I fight to protect the truth." The cheers erupted, and Zariah felt a surge of empowerment. She had not only defended herself but had also become a symbol of strength for others. However, the victory was short-lived. Derek's family, wealthy and influential, filed a lawsuit against Zariah, accusing her of assault. The news spread like wildfire, dividing the town. Some rallied behind Zariah, while others demanded punishment to maintain order. On the day of the trial, Zariah sat in the courtroom, anxiety gnawing at her. Derek's attorney painted her as a dangerous fighter, but Zariah's friends stood up to testify on her behalf. She was defending herself, Jordan, a classmate, declared. "If not for Zariah, I would have been the one hurt." The courtroom fell silent as the judge delivered the verdict. Zariah Brooks is not guilty. Her actions were lawful self-defense. Cheers erupted, and Zariah felt a wave of relief wash over her. She had not only fought for herself but for every student who had ever felt powerless. That in the weeks that followed, Zoraya became a beacon of hope in Cedar Valley. She held self-defense workshops, empowering her peers to stand up against bullying. The atmosphere in the school shifted. Students who once felt afraid began to find their voices. One afternoon, as Zoraya stood on the bleachers with Jordan, he smiled and said, "You didn't just win a fight. You changed this place." Zoraya nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "I never wanted to be a symbol, but if life places a torch in your hand, you have to light the way." As Zoraya continued her workshops, she noticed a change in the dynamics of the school. Students who had once been silent began to speak up, sharing their own stories of bullying and fear. Zoraya listened intently, offering support and encouragement. She became a mentor, guiding her peers to find their own strength. One day, during a workshop, a shy girl named Mia approached Zoraya. "I've been bullied for years," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I don't know how to stand up for myself." Zoraya smiled gently. "You have to believe in yourself, Mia. You're stronger than you think. Let's work together." With Zoraya's guidance, Mia began to gain confidence. She learned basic self-defense techniques and started to speak up against her bullies. The transformation was remarkable. Mia's laughter began to fill the hallways, and her newfound strength inspired others to join Zoraya's workshops. However, not everyone was pleased with Zoraya's rise. Derek, humiliated by his defeat, plotted his revenge. He began to spread rumors about Zoraya, trying to undermine her influence. "She's just a fighter," he told his friends. "She doesn't belong here." But Zoraya remained undeterred. She focused on her mission to empower others, refusing to let Derek's negativity affect her. She organized a school-wide self-defense seminar, inviting students from neighboring schools to participate. The event was a huge success, drawing attention from local media and community leaders. As Zoraya stood on stage, addressing the crowd, she felt a surge of pride. "We are stronger together," she declared. "Let's stand up for each other and create a safe environment for everyone." The applause that followed was deafening, and Zoraya knew she had made a difference. She had become a symbol of resilience, inspiring others to find their voices and stand up against injustice. But the challenges were far from over. Derek's family continued to pressure the school administration, demanding that Zoraya be punished for her actions. They claimed she was a danger to the student body, and the administration found itself caught in the crossfire. One day, Zoraya received a letter from the school board, summoning her to a meeting. Anxiety washed over her as she prepared to defend herself once again. She knew that her reputation was on the line, and she couldn't let Derek's family win. At the meeting, Zoraya stood before the board, her heart racing. "I only defended myself," she stated firmly. "I've worked hard to create a safe space for students, and I won't let anyone take that away from me." The board members exchanged glances, and Zoraya could see the uncertainty in their eyes. Just then, Jordan stood up. "I was there that day," he said, his voice steady. "Zoraya didn't start the fight. She was protecting herself and others. We need her in our school." One by one, other students began to speak up, sharing their experiences and supporting Zoraya. The tide began to turn, and Zoraya felt a wave of hope wash over her. After hours of discussion, the board reached a decision. "We believe Zoraya Brooks has the right to defend herself and others," the head of the board announced. "We will not take any action against her." Cheers erupted from the students who had gathered outside the meeting room, and Zoraya felt a rush of relief. She had fought for her place in Cedar Valley, and she had won. In the aftermath, Zoraya's influence continued to grow. She became a role model for students across the district, and her self-defense workshops expanded to include students from other schools. Zoraya was invited to speak at community events, sharing her story and advocating for anti-bullying initiatives. As she stood on stage at a local charity event, Zoraya looked out at the crowd, her heart swelling with pride. "Together, we can create a world where everyone feels safe and respected," she declared. "Let's stand up for each other and make a difference." The applause that followed was thunderous, and Zoraya knew she had found her purpose. She had transformed from the quiet girl who once hid in the shadows into a powerful advocate for change. But even as she basked in her success, Zariah remained humble. She continued to mentor students, reminding them that true strength comes from within. She encouraged them to believe in themselves and to stand up for what is right. As the school year came to a close, Zariah reflected on her journey. She had faced challenges and adversity, but she had emerged stronger than ever. She had not only defended herself but had also become a champion for others. In the end, Zariah learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to keep moving forward, even when the odds are stacked against you. And as she walked through the halls of Cedar Valley High, she knew that her journey was just beginning. With her heart full of hope and determination, Zariah Brooks was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. She had become a beacon of light in her community, proving that one person can make a difference. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that her story was far from over.